Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles. I blog regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com, and today I want to talk about experiencing your first big energetic release. It's one of those things that sounds just like magic to most people until they have their first one, and the first time you have something like this, it's just kind of mind-blowing because you had no idea that you were carrying around this sort of energy blockage, maybe in your heart or your body, in your mind, or in your general subtle fields or whatever. And then suddenly something drops out and leaves, and there's this whoosh, this expansion out, and you're experiencing life in a new way. You're seeing more clearly, you're feeling more clearly, your body may feel more flexible or more open. I mean, this is just how deep energy is inside us that there are many shifts that I've had in my body where suddenly there's like greater flexibility in my wrists or an opening in my back, or I can put the flat palms of my hands now on the floor when I do a forward bend, right? And it has nothing to do with doing lots of yoga. I wasn't. It's just there's this issues and where we hold them, and then there's these releases, and things open up more further, and we experience our lives more fully and in a deeper space of love. And it's extraordinary. But the first time this starts to happen, especially as you get close, whenever you get close, all the warning signs of the ego starts coming up, like, oh no, this is scary, you can't handle this, this is too much, you'll be overwhelmed. The ego always seems to have this amazing story that you will explode if you sit with too much upset emotional energy. So far, I have not seen people explode, but it is important to breathe into it and to really, really practice relaxing into it. This way, you start to kind of diffuse some of the ego, because the ego can cause more problems and cause all sorts of psychological issues if you really let it go that far. I don't think most of you want to or will. So this is where we breathe into it and we start to watch the noise, whatever it's about. And it'll be different for everyone. So I don't want to generalize too much, because as we get closer to these walls, sometimes these walls require an action. Other times they require no action. And it's almost always different than what our preference would be. So if we really want to take action to do something, usually this means you just have to sit in it. You have to sit with yourself and whatever is arising. Sometimes it will be an action, and you know that you need to leave this job. You absolutely need to leave. And it's just unequivocal, and I'm sure the mind's got like 15 reasons why you can't. You won't have enough money, yada, yada, yada. It has plenty of reasons. You'll never find another job again. It's a bad job market, right? You hear all these different things the mind likes to say to keep you scared, keep you contained. So in that instance, you have to leave that job. So that's the action you take, just to usually end up sitting and being with yourself. And it always sounds too simple to the mind. It's like, well, I just sit here and just like things start moving. And the answer, generally speaking, yes. Just keep coming into that deeper space of relaxation. The awakened state really is a relaxed flowing. It's not limp as a noodle, relaxed. It can be dynamic and fluid, but there's that agility and flexibility to the awakened space that's just extraordinary. And it can be incredibly dynamic and active in the world, but it also knows how to kind of conserve its energy and not to waste its time running around doing 90 different things. So when I wrote about this in a blog some time ago, about releasing these old energies. And anger is a type of energy, shame is a type of energy, fear is a type of energy, and it's all energy. It's just kind of contorted into this one thing. So as you kind of start to intensify your own awareness around it, things kind of start to burn up and grind against each other, and it gets uncomfortable. And this is really the big thing about coming into your first energetic expansion, is because when things start to get uncomfortable, so much of the ego triggers run away, get away, stop it, suppress it, minimize it, and you absolutely have to stick with it, because if you do these other things, it'll just stay. This is what happens for a lot of people just through spiritual maturation. We all have spiritual maturation cycles. So awakening, you hear me talk a lot about it, but it's actually just one piece. It's just a language that people currently understand, and it's a way that they can engage with a spiritual path, and perhaps in a new, more healthy way than has been done before, where spirituality and religion were combined. It was kind of getting jammed down people's throats to a sort of a fear and control doctrine, which is not healthy, and it's not actually spiritual. At least not in overt ways. Ultimately, everything's spiritual, but this is a topic for another time. So there's spiritual growth cycles that we all naturally want to go through in this life if we allow them. And so if we don't, then those are those times in our lives where people just say, well, things just went bad for a while. They don't really understand it. They didn't learn any lessons from it. They didn't release any old energies, and usually they probably built stuff up because they suppressed it more. So something started coming up about your issues with your mother, and then you went out and drank, and you drank and you drank, and you suppressed it all down, and you built up all the layers of anger at yourself for doing this to yourself, as well as causing more harm to the body. And the body can only take so much. This is part of the reason there's so much disease of different types. It's being saturated by all kinds of really unhealthy foods that the human body has never really had to deal with in the type of quantities that it's dealing with now. And most of that really is because we're not happy. And so there's a quality of facing this unhappiness inside of us. And that there's that tenacity that you absolutely have to develop. Tenacity and perseverance. To just say, you know what, this is here. If I'm feeling this, I put it here. Right? This is the responsibility of it. It's like if something's arising in you, it's because you have chosen to feel that feeling, and you have that feeling, and you've harbored certain things around that feeling to not feel that feeling. The amazing simplicity that may arise if you do stick with it is just how easy it releases, and it's just like becomes like nothing. And often what happens is the mind comes in after that and says, that was it. Right? This could have been days, months, years, decades, where this thing has sat in here and poisoned your whole life, and just in whatever moment you're ready, you release it and it's done. And that's it. And you don't have to respond from it anymore. And depending on how much energy was spent trying to hold it down, now that energy becomes available. This is why there's this expansive quality to moving through a big issue and going into this first shift. Suddenly you feel like you can do tons more things. And this is where I encourage people to stay quiet, stay with this energy, go slower, let it really sink in, get comfortable with being more expanded. Find out where the inner walls are before you worry about the external walls and what you can do and how you can help others and stuff like that. Don't expend this energy too quickly. And if something wants to, find out why. Because expansiveness becomes its own natural discomfort for a while, because you start to see and feel other walls inside you. If you broke out of your little prison cell, suddenly you start to experience the prison block that you're in. Find out how big it is. Sit with it. Because as you sit with it, it cultivates that energy, and you start to go into your natural growth cycles. Regardless of awakening or wherever you are in your spiritual path, if you even consider yourself spiritual, you just randomly got this video, suggested to you by YouTube today. All this stuff naturally wants to arise in our just natural maturation as human beings on this planet. And so you start to sit here with this energy, with this sense of awareness, this openness, and you'll notice other things. And then it may feel like it either kind of hits the walls or kind of converges on something, and so the energy pulls in, and you'll start to notice that you'll go through a similar cycle, but each time it always feels kind of new. And ego usually likes to run back in again and say, like, you can't handle this one. But it's nice once you've moved through that first, because that first one, at least experientially, lets you know that you can. That it's not going to destroy you. It's not going to overwhelm you. That it ultimately is just nothing. And then you can release it and feel better and brighter and more whole than perhaps you've ever felt before. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Once again, my name is Jim Tolles, and you can find me blogging regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com.